Welcome to the Finance Marketing Podcast, a show that empowers finance professionals to market their businesses in ways that feel good and actually achieve results. I'm your host, Hillary. I've been working with folks in financial services to develop marketing strategies that work and create results-oriented marketing content since 2020. And I've learned a lot about what works in finance marketing, what doesn't work, and where financial services pros get stuck. Join us each Friday as we explore real, effective ways to market your finance business and connect with folks who truly embody your ideal clients. My guest this week is Sonja Ecklund, owner of Sonja Ecklund Coaching and Consulting. Sonja is a board-certified health and wellness coach, a financial social work coach, a learning and development consultant, and a behavior change expert with over 12 years of experience helping people change their lives through the power of coaching and consulting. Now, Sonja and I initially connected on LinkedIn, and after hearing about the kind of work she does in relation to finances, I invited her to come and record an episode with me. Since this was our first time meeting, she and I scheduled a meet and greet chat about a week prior to our episode date, and we ended up hitting it off. And our conversation was so good and vibrant that we ended up hitting the record button right then and there. The conversation that we recorded was a candid, spontaneous chat, and I am so thrilled to share it with you today. So in this episode, Sonja dives deep into her journey and experience in the world of financial social work and behavior change when it comes to money. Sonja has a highly engaged email list for her business. So we focus particularly on her approach to email marketing and how she has successfully built an email list with open rates as high as 90% or above, replies from her subscribers, and more. Sonja was generous enough to share her insights on how she's built this small but mighty audience for her business. So for financial advisors and coaches looking to improve their own email efforts, this episode is packed with valuable insights on building and maintaining a meaningful connection with your audience in their inboxes. So without further ado, let's dive in. Welcome to this episode of the Finance Marketing Podcast. I am so delighted to have Sonja on today. Sonja, how are you?
Hi, I'm great. Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. I love that we just kind of decided to record off the cuff a little bit. For our listeners, we were just having a pre-record meeting and kind of decided on the spot, you know what, we're having such a great conversation. Let's just go ahead and dive in. So I would love to start, Sonja, if you would just tell me a little bit about who you are and what it is you do. And I know you have some really interesting ways that you help people with money. So I would love to hear more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Sonja. I'm a board certified health and wellness coach. I'm a financial social work coach, and I'm a learning and development expert. And so I've been working in the field of learning and development and behavior change for about 12 years and kind of take an interesting approach to helping people change their lives through coaching and consulting in whatever way feels most meaningful to them.
I love that. So can you tell me a little bit about what you've learned in your work over the years when you're talking with people specifically about money, how much of an influence behavior and some of those deeper emotions have on their day-to-day choices with money, their feelings about money? Because I feel like that really just, it colors so many aspects of
Yeah,
our lives,
absolutely.
right?
Yeah, I often find that when my clients come to me to talk about money, it's almost never actually about money. It's
Mm,
almost always about some kind of story that they're telling themselves, some kind of limiting belief that they're holding on to, or some kind of, barrier that they're encountering in their life that really has less to do with the numbers and has more to do with the feelings. So I often talk about how what I really do in my practice is I help people untangle both the facts and the feelings of their money situation. And the
mm,
goal of the relationship that I form with my clients is to help my clients just level up their relationship with money and get
mm.
really confident about their financial future. So often it has less to do with the numbers and the spreadsheet and the tracking and more to do with the feelings and more to do with their behaviors.
I love that. I feel like this is such important work. And, I often think of it is the financial coaches and the financial therapists who are doing this work. And I find it really interesting. Many advisors that I've talked with recently are also starting to realize the importance of this, which I think is
Hmm.
a great shift, that across the spectrum, financial services professionals are realizing we can't just talk about numbers, right? We also have to talk about behaviors, and we have to talk about stories and kind of underlying issues, that really color our relationship with money. So I think that's great. Now, I would love to dive into marketing with you, because you are doing something that I think is really important for people who are marketing their own businesses, but also that people don't talk about a lot. I don't think I've had anyone on here yet talking really deeply about email marketing, which is something that you've started doing quite recently. So I have a few questions around email marketing for you, but I would love to start if you would just give us a kind of broad overview of all the ways that you market your business, and how that's kind of led you to email marketing. Because before we hit the record button, you mentioned, you've been in business, I think you said, since 2011,
Hmm.
but you only recently added email marketing to your mix.
Yeah, so my business has taken a lot of different twists and turns since 2011. And so I actually got my start teaching yoga. That was the first like iteration of my business and my private practice. I started by teaching yoga in a public library and in various elementary schools around a small town in Iowa where I lived. And I met a lot of people that way. And I, collected their email addresses and communicated with them about yoga classes.
Mm,
And then my business kind of expanded as I got my first health and wellness coaching certification to seeing individuals working on behavior changes. That led me to offering cooking classes in a local co op and doing like presentations and workshops at local businesses who needed to kind of talk to their staff about wellness. And so that all sort of evolved and snowballed into just forming relationships with people and getting to know people. And I moved from Iowa to Minneapolis in 2014 and ended up getting a job working at a corporate wellness company where I worked for 7.5 years. And in that time, I ran my business on the side. So I
mm,
would offer small workshops, I would offer various workbooks, I would offer one on one coaching sessions, and I just kind of let it be sort of a thing that I did for fun in the background. And
mm,
so I certainly was sending out emails during that time, but I wasn't relying on my private practice for my income. I was just doing it as a thing that I loved to do. And
right.
so whenever I had something to offer, I would kind of let people know about it and say, hey, I'm offering this thing, or I have this new event coming up, or, I would sort of promote it in that way. But there wasn't necessarily a strategy behind it other than just like, hey, I'm doing a thing. And so, because it was really more of a side hustle and a hobby, it didn't necessarily need to be strategic in nature. What it was authentic in nature. And I think that
Mm,
that's what's really enabled me to get to where I am today, is that I've built these authentic connections with people through a fairly wide variety of things, yoga, cooking, teaching workshops, doing workbooks, writing ebooks, and being on podcasts, and just sort of having like a wide variety of offerings has enabled me to gather a lot of people who I might not otherwise have reached.
right.
And so as I transitioned to being full time in my private practice, which is 6 months, a little over 6 months now that I've been doing this full time, I realized that I needed a marketing strategy and an email strategy, and I had no idea how to start that. And so I spent a lot of time learning about how
Mm,
people effectively email market in a way that feels authentic. I
mm.
am very put off by emails that are like extremely sales focused. Yeah, you too. I see
Yes,
your nods.
yes, yes.
And and I'm very put off by emails that are very just driven by saying like, here are all the things that I'm offering and all the things I'm doing. What I'm very attracted to when I get emails in my inbox are stories. I
Mhm,
love learning through the power of story, and um I love authenticity, I love empathy, I love compassion. I love people who are really willing to be vulnerable and like share something real that they're going through, and if they can relate that back to their business, that makes me want to engage with that business owner. So knowing that that's how I responded well, I was like, I wonder if my clients would respond well to this as well. And so I have always loved writing. I've always enjoyed telling stories and communicating through words. And so I just decided to try telling stories and sort of taking a roundabout approach to marketing. And it seems to be working.
Mm. There are so many things that I want to kind of highlight or circle back to that you said. Um, one of those things is that, I was nodding along as you were talking about, I don't resonate with emails that are overly salesy or that, that just, they don't even try to make a connection. And I think that you and I are certainly not the only people that feel that way. I think that there's this massive shift in marketing right now where people want to engage with businesses and brands that are being authentic. And storytelling is one of the most powerful ways to do that. And the other thing that I really appreciated that you said was you were just paying attention to what emails in your own inbox were resonating with you and then applying that to the emails that you were writing. And I think that is the most impactful way that you can market your business as you think about what's resonating with me and how can I create something that resonates with my email list. So I would love to ask you, because one thing you've mentioned before is that you have a highly engaged email list. And that's something that I think for people new to email marketing is a little bit scary. They're wondering, am I going to be spamming people's inboxes? Do they not want to hear from me? What should I talk about? What if nobody ever responds? Things like that. So I would love to dive into what it looks like to have a highly engaged email list, and how that kind of feels.
Yeah. So the first thing is I totally relate to that feeling of like, am I going to be spamming people's inboxes? I'm an email minimalist. I am like an inbox zero girl. I do not want a bunch of emails in my inbox cluttering it up and crowding it up. And so I'm very conscious of the fact that I don't want to be taking up space in someone's inbox who doesn't want to hear from me. And so one
Mhm.
of the things that I did was I wrote a little disclaimer at the bottom of my email that said, "You're on my list because I've gotten your email address sometime over the last 12 years," you
Mhm.
know? And FYI, if you don't want to be on this, I fully respect the space in your inbox. You are welcome to
Mhm.
unsubscribe below. So I think for me, just inviting people to opt out and get off of my email list if they don't want to be there helps me feel like I'm not just spamming people or like I'm
Right.
not just taking up space. So putting that out there and just directly communicating that felt really authentic to me. And, just acknowledging that, like, I might not be everybody's vibe. Not everybody wants to hear from me. Not everybody needs to hear from me. And it's totally okay to opt out. That was one thing that helped me just kind of feel a little bit more confident when I hit send on my very first email. But yeah, I think your questions about like, what if nobody replies? What if nobody's engaged? Also, that's okay. It's
Mm.
okay if not everybody is clicking or replying or responding or going to your website or scheduling discovery calls. What you might be doing in your email marketing is just planting seeds.
Mm.
And really, that serves a purpose and could be something that pays off way, way down the line in the future. And so I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. I think that it can be really tempting to overanalyze your email marketing statistics and get
Mhm.
really, really into like, oh no, who's unsubscribing and who is clicking and, how many people are clicking and things like that. And so while I have had a really positive response to the emails that I've sent out, I also am aware that it might change. And if it
Mhm.
does change, it doesn't necessarily mean that what I'm doing isn't working.
Mhm.
It just might be that people are like, okay, yeah, I've got the vibe. I know what she's offering. I don't really need to read these anymore. It's
Right.
very possible that the statistics might change, but it still might be effective, just not necessarily in the way that I expect it to be. Does that make
Right.
sense?
Absolutely. And I'd love to dive into this notion of unsubscribes a little bit more with you as well, because I think for me, with my email list, it was hard for me at first to not take unsubscribes personally and feel like
Yes.
I was being rejected as a person.
Mm-hmm.
And I've really had to do a lot of mindset work around, you know what? This is actually unsubscribes are actually a good thing because it means that now my email list is um, it's becoming a place where it's just a community of people who want to hear from me, and the people who unsubscribed, they weren't gonna do business with me anyways, right, or start a relationship with me anyways. So I don't want them on my email list, right? I'd love to hear you talk about maybe your journey with the unsubscribe metric.
That is exactly how I feel. Yes, I had a couple people reach out to me and say, "Hey, before you send your first email," this is like a fellow small business owner reaching out to me saying, "Don't look at the unsubscribes. Don't look
Hmm.
at them. They'll make you feel bad." And I was like, "Oh no, I'm going to look at them wholeheartedly." And I'm going to celebrate that person because number 1, that person's setting a boundary.
Hmm.
And possibly because I invited people to unsubscribe, they felt confident doing so. And I'm so glad because, exactly like you said, if they don't want to receive my email, if they're not going to read my email, and if they're not even potentially going to ever become a customer of mine, I don't need them on my list. So I love the fact that people are self selecting and taking themselves off of the list if they see that what I'm offering doesn't resonate with them. I mentioned that I got my start teaching yoga, and that's not something that I'm doing right now. So when people who were former yoga students of mine unsubscribe from my list, I'm like, that makes sense.
Right.
Cool. Um, so I definitely think that my advice to fellow small business owners looking at their email statistics is look at those stats.
Mm.
Absolutely look at who's unsubscribing from your list, but also compassionately detaching yourself from that outcome and recognizing that it has nothing to do with you as a person. It has nothing to do with the quality of your content or the quality of your work or who you are as a person. I think the sooner we can detach ourselves from those things, the more effective we can be and the faster we can get to actually creating and cultivating an engaged list.
I could not agree more. So tell me a little bit about, how do you measure whether a list is engaged or not? What are you looking at to be able to tell if the list is
Yeah,
engaged?
definitely. So I'm looking at opens. I'm definitely looking at my open rate. I'm looking at my click rate, and I'm also kind of collecting some of the more story-based feedback. So people
Mm.
responding to me in Instagram DMs or writing back to my emails, actually hitting reply, signing up for discovery calls, things like that. So I
Mhm.
am definitely looking at the metrics, but I think that you know my email open rate across my broadcasts, so the emails that I send that are just like one-time emails, is 85%, which is pretty high.
Wow.
Yeah, and my email open rate for my campaigns, so people who have specifically signed up to hear about a specific product, is
Mhm.
92%. Yeah. So it's a lot higher than I expected it to be.
Yeah,
And I think partially it's a product of the people who signed up for campaigns asked to be there. They
right.
specifically wanted to hear about some kind of product, some kind of service. And so it's not surprising to me that they are opening their emails.
Mhm.
I was a little bit surprised to see 85% on my general email list, my general broadcasts.
Mhm.
And I will also say, this is still fairly new to me. I sent out the first email through this new email marketing system where I'm quoting these analytics from only 2 months ago. And
Mm.
so this is still an evolving process. And I won't be surprised if those numbers go down over time. It's possible that there's a newness factor, and that people are like, I haven't heard from Sonja in a while. I want to open this and see what she's saying. But the fact that they are opening it and, replying to me, clicking on the links, not unsubscribing, definitely seems like a good sign.
Yeah, I just wanna say those are absolutely unreal open rates. I consider anything between 50 and 60% to be really high open rates, so those are unreal open rates, and I think it's really good to be kind of preparing yourself. Yeah, this might go down because these are unreal open rates. Those
Hmm.
are great, and if it doesn't go down, I mean, that's incredible. Um, One question I'd love to ask you is, how often are you emailing your list?
That's a great question. So, when I started developing my strategy, I really thought about this. I've seen a lot of emails, um, from people that I like and respect come in far too often.
Mhm.
And so what that means for me in my own personal definition of too often is like daily or
Mm.
like, 3 to 5 times a week. It just feels like too much. And what
Yeah.
I notice is that I see names of people that I genuinely want to hear from kind of start to stack up in my inbox. I start
Mm.
to get overwhelmed. And then what I often end up doing is deleting those emails and not even opening them because it's just too many to get through. And so when I was thinking about this from my own perspective, I was really thinking about how human behavior works and how
Mhm.
people, um, you know, kind of want to hear from people that they like and that they respect, but they don't want to be spammed. And that's obvious, right? But for me, that meant that a cadence that felt really comfortable was about every 3 weeks.
Mm.
So I describe my emails as monthly-ish on my website when I ask people to sign up, partially because I don't want to hold myself to some kind of very strict standard
Mhm.
wherein I'm forcing myself to write something when I don't actually have anything to say.
Mhm.
And since my emails are a little bit more creative in nature, I do need to draw on some level of inspiration in order to write an effective story and in order to send something out that's going to be meaningful. Since it's not just here are my events that I'm doing this month, and here's how to work with me.
Mhm.
I didn't feel comfortable committing to like a really, really specific cadence. So I kind of like to let it evolve and flow. But I would say about every 3 weeks is what I've found keeps people from feeling like I'm spamming them and
Mm.
keeps people kind of curious and interested in knowing what I have to say next.
I love that. What is your process for coming up with ideas or keeping track of ideas? If you get a couple of ideas in one week, do you write those down and come back to them later? Or is it all kind of just when inspiration strikes?
Yeah, I am a big project management system person. So, project management is one of my absolute like passions in life, and I personally use Asana to keep
Mm.
every single thing that I do organized and in the right place. And so I have an entire project plan outlined for all of my email marketing, Instagram marketing, and LinkedIn marketing, where I've essentially built a very robust content bank associated with the content pillars that I talk about within my practice,
Mhm.
and I pull from that list of ideas. So I do draw a lot from my own personal experience and from my own life. And so sometimes I have an idea that I thought I was going to write about, but then something comes up in my own life that eclipses the original idea I had, and I go with that instead. But I am a huge fan of writing everything down, keeping all of my ideas in one place. I personally use Asana to make that happen.
Mm.
And I'm very passionate about helping other people set up systems like that because it's tough. There are lots of courses out there and classes out there that work for people who sort of have a project management brain. But one of the things that I do in my own practice is I consult with other small business owners on creating project management systems that are specifically tailored to and designed to those individuals because I
Ooh,
think it's not one size fits all.
I want to talk to you about this more. That sounds like something I could really benefit from.
Absolutely. Custom project management, it's a really cool thing.
I love that. So, what email marketing system are you currently use, and do you like it? I know you said that you just recently switched over to it.
Yeah, so I am using Podia. So my
Mm.
entire website and products and sales and email marketing and everything is all through Podia, and I love that. I had been using a lot of different services, and I've experimented throughout the years using basically every email marketing system that you can think of, and lots of different web hosting platforms. But I really love the fact that Podia has everything all in one place.
Mm, okay. Any email marketing systems that you would say stay away from? Don't even try it out.
Mm. I think there's value in trying different marketing systems
Mm.
out. And since project management and small business ownership isn't one size fits all, I would hesitate to name any specific companies. I think there's so much value in logging in, creating an account, trying it out, seeing if you like the interface for like actually building the email,
Mm.
seeing if you like how they present analytics to you, seeing if you like what you're able to see. I mean, I think just the process of experimenting has brought me to where I am today to feel very confident in using the system that I'm using now. But I don't know that I would feel that high level of confidence if I hadn't done all these other experiments in the past.
I love that answer. That's a great answer. Now, the last thing that I'd really love to dive into you with is, a lot of people when they think about email marketing, they're like, I have to have a list of at least 1,000 people, or I have to have a list of 5,000 people for this to, have any effect on my business, get discovery calls, anything like that. And that can be really, really overwhelming when you're starting with 0 or 10 or 20 or whatever it might be. And I know that you gave me permission to ask this question and you're willing to be very candid. So I would love to hear you talk about the size of your email list, and also how you don't have to have a huge audience for this to work really, really well.
Yes, I am so glad you brought this up because I think this is a really common thing that affects a lot of small business owners. Is sort of this all or nothing mindset when it comes to everything in small business, but especially with email marketing. So I currently have 180 subscribers on my list. I currently have like, I think 350 Instagram followers. I do not have a huge audience on any social media platform or in my emails. And
Mhm.
so I think it's really important to remember that you don't want a list of 20,000 people who are not opening your emails. You want a list of people who are actually opening and clicking and replying and responding and setting up conversations with you. And so it doesn't matter if that list is 5 people or 500 people or 5,000 people. If they're actually opening your email and reading it, that's the point. And I
Mhm.
think that held me back for a really long time. Like I said, my business has evolved a lot in the time that I've been running it. And certainly when I was offering in person workshops and classes and things that had very specific like times and dates attached to them, I was letting people know about those events. But when I stopped offering things like that and my business became a little bit more asynchronous in nature, I really hesitated to reach out to people because I only had like 100 people on the list at the time.
Mm,
And it felt a little bit like, oh, well, if I don't have anything really, really specific to offer, with a specific time and date attached, does anybody even want to hear from me?
mm,
And so I think that really held me back from starting. I think it also, seeing other people on Instagram who have 50,000 or, way more than that, has felt intimidating to me at other points in my business development. And now I just celebrate the fact that I'm getting, 50 likes on Instagram posts out of my audience of 350 people. That's
right.
pretty good, right? And same thing with my emails. Like I'm getting these high open rates on a small list, and I would far rather have that than have a way, way smaller open rate on a way bigger list.
Mm,
So that's the approach that I take. I'm very much with you in thinking that like I want people to unfollow me. I want people to unsubscribe. If they don't like what I'm saying and I'm just noise in their Instagram feed or their LinkedIn feed, like please disconnect.
right.
I want everybody to cultivate a feed and an email inbox and a LinkedIn page that like fully feels like what they want to be learning about and what they want to be engaging with. And if that's not me, that's totally okay.
Mm. I think this is just the healthiest mindset to have when you're building an audience and you're engaging with people online. So I really, really appreciate you saying all of that. Are you actively growing your email list as well right now too? And if so, how are you doing that?
Yeah, I am. Yes. And so I have an email landing page on my website that I link to in various Instagram posts or various LinkedIn posts. I have a little footer at the bottom of every page about what are you getting when you subscribe to my email list? Like,
Mm,
why would you subscribe to my email list? And then that pops up everywhere that you go on my website. And so I am actively working on growing it. I would love, love, love to see, the number of subscribers that I have get higher if I can maintain people actually opening my emails, right? And like I said, I don't expect to see that number stay in the 80 and 90% range as time goes on, but I'd love to see it stay above 50.
yeah.
And so I think, yeah, the goal for me definitely is to get the list to be a little bit bigger, but also keep the engagement rate high.
Mm. Well, Sonia, one question that I love to ask at the end of interviews, and I hope you'll forgive me because I'm going to lead you here a little bit with this one because you said something
Yeah.
before we hit record that I think is really important for people to hear. I love to ask if you could go back to future you and, tell yourself one thing, or if you wish you had known one thing in the beginning, what would it be? And I'm going to let you answer that question. But I also want to bring up the fact that you said, I wish I had started this email list however many years ago. And I would love to hear you talk a little bit about why that is and what you think kind of this is doing for your business and for yourself as a business owner.
I love that question. If I could go back and tell myself anything, it would be to stay consistent.
Mm,
I think that past versions of me as a business owner, especially when it was, a side hustle, got discouraged when I didn't get engagement.
mm,
And I think that the biggest lesson I have learned in the 6 months that I've been doing this fully full time is if I let those little moments of discouragement and disengagement get me down, I will never succeed in the long term.
mm,
It is a long game. It is a marathon, not a sprint, and I absolutely have to um, remind myself that just because nobody replied to this email, or just because this Instagram post or this LinkedIn post got low engagement, does not mean that what I'm doing isn't working.
mm,
And so I think that if I could go back and tell myself anything, it would be stay consistent and don't get discouraged.
mm,
Um, Showing up and continually kind of letting people know what it is that I'm doing from a vulnerable and authentic place is going to be valuable, even if the product evolves over time, even if the size of the team evolves over time, even if the scope of my practice evolves over time. Consistency is the most important thing, and I definitely wish I could remind myself that a few years ago. And then same thing with the all or nothing mindset, just getting started, recognizing that like it's better to send an email to 10 people than to not send an email at all.
mm-hmm. Absolutely. I love that. Well, Sonia, where can people find you if they want to learn more about you?
Yeah, the best place is to go to my website, which is sonjaecklund.com.
Great. Perfect. Well, I'm going to link to that in the show notes. I'll also link to your Instagram profile and your LinkedIn profile. Um, and this has been such a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much for coming on and chatting with me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Finance Marketing Podcast. If you're eager to market your business in a way that feels good and actually gets results, sign up for the Finance Marketing Podcast newsletter in the show notes so you never miss another episode. If you liked what you heard today, please be sure to subscribe to the show on your favorite listening app and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. We'll see you back here next Friday.